Good morning, y'all. This is View from the Pew. It's Tuesday, October the 6th, 2020, and we're looking at the commands of Christ. Let me just remind you why we do this. It's because we're called to disciple the nations. That's what Matthew 28 says. And in doing so, we must teach them to observe all that Jesus Christ commanded us to do. So as I'm looking at the commands of Christ, I'm not only looking at explicit commands, I'm also trying to dig out implicit commands as well, because if I was walking with Jesus, if I was one of those 11 walking with him, I'm wanting to learn all I can about what he wants me to do. So I'm listening in on a conversation between Jesus and the Pharisees, and we're in the middle of 8 woes. We're on woe number 2, and a woe is a word of condemnation. It's a word of warning that someone gives to somebody else, and here is the second woe. And we're also talking about the idea of being a hypocrite, being a pretender to the faith, being someone who wears a mask, a spiritual mask. So listen to what Jesus says. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites." This is Matthew 23, verse 14. "For you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers, therefore you will receive greater condemnation." Let me read that again. "For you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers, therefore you will receive greater condemnation." It sounds like what Jesus is dealing with here is those who would take advantage of others who are in need, or those who might be taken advantage of, whether they're gullible because they choose to be or gullible because they can't help it. It's taking advantage of those in a spiritual sense. Now, my Bible has a little bit of commentary on the parallel command, of parallel passage in Mark 12. It says in Mark 12:40, he talks about being aware. Beware of the scribes who desire to go around in long robes, love greetings in the marketplace, the best seats in the synagogue, and the best places at feasts. And then he says this, word for word, "who devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. These will receive the greater condemnation." That's a pretty serious word of warning. Let me just read to you what my Bible study, or my study Bible says. It says, "Jesus exposed the greedy, unscrupulous practices of the scribes. Scribes often served as estate planners for widows, which gave them the opportunity to convince distraught widows that they would be serving God by supporting the temple or the scribe's own holy work. In either case, the scribe benefited monetarily and effectively robbed the widows of her husband's legacy to her. And then the Pharisees attempted to flaunt their piety by praying for long periods of time. Their motive was not devotion to God, but a desire to be revered by people." So how does this apply to us? One, there are those in church life, in church, in the Christian community, who are needy, that if you press the right buttons, you could take advantage of them. Whether you're a minister or a layman, you could take advantage of them. Jesus says, don't you even think about it. Don't you dare do that. There's a greater condemnation for that. Don't you go in with a pretense of saying you're going to help them when all you're really interested in doing is getting something from them. When we look at people as resources that we can take from, instead of those in need who God loves, we put ourselves in a dangerous place. And also there's the idea of making a pretense of long prayers. Maybe that even fits with the other in saying, okay, I'm going to pray for a long time. I'm going to say a special prayer for those of you who are widows or those of you who are needy, but don't really do anything. So it's all about not being pretentious and not being greedy. And I want to also speak to the apologetic aspect of this, because one of the things that has hurt the Christian witness in the world is some of these, if you'll pardon me saying, greedy TV preachers who seem to only want your money. And there's a lot of that going on. They make you feel guilty if you don't give. And if they see you with a lot of money and they see you as an easy mark, they come calling, and they'll put on all the airs or pretense in order to get what they need to get. You watch out for them. But more than anything, Christian, you don't be that person. God doesn't need our money. God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. God can take care of what he needs to do, and much of ministry can be done if we'll simply be obedient. It's not a matter of throwing money into things. It's a matter of throwing ourselves into service for the Lord. So as we look at this command of Jesus Christ, I guess what I would say about it is this. Jesus is saying, by implication, don't take advantage of the needy, and don't be pretentious in your prayer life. Don't take advantage of the needy, and don't be pretentious in your prayer life if you're going to follow me. So I pray that you'll follow him today, and I pray that you'll join us tomorrow night so we can continue our study in 1 Peter, starting in 1 Peter 2, some great stuff there, 6:15 p.m. online, and you can come here if you're able to as well. We'd love to have you here. Love to see you. Let us know if you have any prayer needs, and I pray God gives you a great, great Tuesday. God bless.